T-Wolves lose their first game of the playoffs tonight versus Denver, 117-90. We're breaking it all down. It's coming up next on the Locked On Wolves POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. And look at this. We got the first three-man crew of the season. We're bringing in the big guns for the playoffs. Sam Ekstrom, host of the Minnesota Basketball Party each and every Wednesday. He's on X at Sam Ekstrom. And then, of course, our T-Wolves expert, Tyler Metcalf. He's on X at TMetcalf11. And guys, before we jump into all the action from tonight, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, fellas, game 3. Wolves walking into this one 6-0 in the playoffs. Hottest team in the NBA, coming off 3 days of rest in which, really the past 72 hours, all we heard about was maybe a little too much Minnesota love. Up 2-0 versus Denver, and now you get 2 at home in the backyard at the Target Center. Game 2's theme we said on the postcast with Jack Borman. The theme of game 2 was no Rudy, no problem. Well, game 3's theme kind of felt like Jamal Murray's back, and the Nuggets look like the sleeping giant that just woke up, and they're not going down without a fight. I mean, games 1 and 2, guys, look like varsity versus JV squad out there at times. Game 3 looked like the exact opposite, polar opposite, because the Nuggets, they really mopped the floor with the Wolves tonight. They took care of business on the road. Huge statement win. I got some quick bullet point notes. Denver came out, landed all the early punches in this one, 15-point deficit at halftime. And again, Jamal Murray showed up tonight. And that really, at least early on, made all the difference in the world. Maybe the 3 days off really helped the calf injury because he just looked like 100% tonight. Denver's offense, just in general, top to bottom, looked way too comfortable having their way versus the NBA's number 1 defense. And then in turn, every time the Wolves tried to claw their way back out of that early big deficit, they just had no answer for the Nuggets offense. And so the good news is here, you're still up 2-1. You got another one at home Sunday. Bad news is it feels like the sleeping giant maybe just woke up. You got to now find a way to pick yourself back up, right? Stop all the momentum heading back to Denver right now after this 117-90 performance. Plenty to get into and break down. Let's just start, though, with both your guys' biggest takeaways and kind of your A topics first and foremost. Sam Ekstrom, let's start with you.
This was a human nature defeat tonight. In Minnesota sports history, coming off of high-octane, emotional victories, I think that we are just over. Like, we don't bounce back from these things well. We don't handle success very well. When big, powerful things happen and people make great proclamations about how good we are, we can't listen to it. And I think we listened to it a little bit. I spent 4 days hearing Charles Barkley say that the Wolves were going to sweep, the Bill Simmons saying that the Wolves were going to sweep, that Kendrick Perkins was saying the Wolves were going to sweep, some moron named Sam Ekstrom on this network saying the Wolves were going to sweep. Just it was too good. It was too good, and I think we probably overlooked the opponent a little bit. It's the champs. It's the Denver Nuggets. They're well coached. They had 4 days to scheme how to do the exact opposite of what they did in game 2. So we're talking about a 53-point turnaround from game 2 to game 3. It's weird, man. Every game is its own entity. The Nuggets had the plan tonight. The Timberwolves didn't, and game 4 is going to be totally different. But this was a human nature defeat with the Wolves resting on their laurels. The Nuggets were hungrier. They were more desperate, and that showed.
Tyler, biggest takeaways, A topics?
Yeah, and I think Sam nailed all of that just based on this game, though. That was the worst Anthony Edwards game in 2 months. And that's easily the worst he's looked this offseason, the worst the offense has looked in quite some time. And it didn't feel like it was unfixable, which is really encouraging.
Yeah.
So they just came out flat. They came out entitled. They came out just expecting the reigning champs with the 3-time MVP to just roll over and assume that the series was done. And they kind of came out and played the effort and the execution level of tonight's game like they were playing the Pistons in February. It was just a really unacceptable approach and execution on both ends of the floor, but mainly just the offense tonight was an absolute disaster.
Tyler, I'm surprised you mentioned Edwards as the worst game, because I think if I were circling someone who had an uncharacteristic game, I think Gobert was pretty ineffective. I thought Conley was ineffective. I thought Reed was ineffective. I thought Edwards was arguably one of the best of a bad bunch. I mean, everyone kind of stunk tonight, so I guess we're picking hairs here, but I actually thought Edwards tried to engage this team. He turned the ball over too much, but I thought he was efficient offensively without too many places to go. But there were a lot of bad performances up and down the sheet. Luke, yes. I'm sure you'll lead us into it.
Well, I was just going to say, I could see both sides of the argument. I could see that, okay, Anthony Edwards was one of the only few bright spots as far as trying to put this team on his back. But at the same time, like Tyler said, the bar is set so high now for not just Anthony Edwards, but playoff Anthony Edwards that, yeah, he was disappointed tonight as well. So I see both sides of it. In general, again, just such a polar opposite performance by both teams, really, from games 1 and 2 to what we just watched transpire tonight. I know there's a lot we can put blame on tonight, but here is a few things that really jumped out to me. Number one, Jaden McDaniels, who, I mean, he's a guy we've talked about on this show so many times about being that X factor for him, for this team, picked up those 3 quick fouls in only 10 minutes of play. So him on the bench really changed, I think, the energy defensively out there. And then number 2, the turnovers. I mean, games 1 and 2, this Wolves team forced so many turnovers, and tonight Denver didn't even have their first turnover until 5 minutes left in the second quarter. So huge stark contrast there. And then number 3, you guys kind of already touched on it, the bench. I mean, this Wolves bench play has come up so clutch, so huge for them. They've really picked them up when they needed a spark at times. And tonight you only got, let's see, a combined 16 points from Naz Reid, Nah, and Slow-Mo. 16 points combined there. So I guess, what do you guys make of the stark contrast between the turnovers, the bench play, and I guess what else kind of stuck out as far as the X's and O's goes?
Yeah, I'll take the first crack here, Tyler, and then I'll pass it over to you. But I think the simplest way to put it is that Denver hit all the shots. I mean, let's give Denver a lot of credit. In the meaningful portion of this game, the first 3 quarters, Denver shot 60%. Like that's kind of what the Suns did to the Wolves during the regular season. They had a couple games where they just shot the lights out. Is Denver going to do that every game? I don't think so. Everybody made shots for them. Aaron Gordon was making shots for them, and he can shoot a little bit. The Wolves don't really respect his shot. They kind of let him have it, and he took it. And he knocked everything down. And the Nuggets had everything in their bag tonight. Jokic was facilitating. Murray, whew. I mean, we can debate about whether he should have been on the floor at all tonight, but the high degree of difficulty with which he hits those fadeaways, it is breathtaking. And it was awesome. And my take on this is, I think Murray was just bad in game 2. I don't think he was unhealthy. I think he was just bad and frustrated. And I think he bounced back in a really big way tonight. You can say he looked healthier. I think he just played better and he looked himself. So when Murray looks that good, when Porter is that good, when Jokic is that good, this team is basically unbeatable. And we said after game 2, if Murray looks that bad, Denver can't win. So really Murray's performance and the shooting overall just brought Denver to a level offensively where you would have needed to have one of your best offensive games to keep up.
Tyler, just real quick on that point that Sam just made, you could tell the officiating crew was calling things a little bit differently, maybe to say the least, than we saw the first 2 games. How much of a factor do you think that played into things tonight, if any?
It's huge. I'm not going to say that the refs are why they lost, but whenever you get Tony Brothers, you know you're going to get a really tight whistle, especially compared and coming out of game 2 with how much attention there was on the physicality and how that was, people were describing it as the greatest defensive performance they've ever seen. you knew that it was going to be a much tighter whistle. You knew that Nikhil and Jaden weren't going to be as physical 94 feet picking up Jamal Murray and getting around screens and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm never going to put it on the refs as this was a poorly officiated game. It was just a drastically different officiated game. I thought the whistle was pretty tight both ways. Sure, there are fouls here and there that, there'll always be missed calls, but it was just night and day in terms of the physicality that was allowed on both ends of the floor. And when you're a team like Minnesota, who thrives with that physicality and thrives at getting in your opponent's head, and you're not able to do that right away, and then you have a guy like Jamal Murray who kind of finds his rhythm early. And, I know he only finished 11 of 21 shooting, not great, but a lot of those misses kind of came later on in the game after the lead was already built up, and the Timberwolves just didn't have the juice to really push that comeback and spark it on the defensive end like we saw them do in games 1 and 2 and that entire Phoenix series.
Last quick one before we move on to segment 2. Just tell me what jumps out, either of you, when you hear some of these box score numbers. And granted, keep in mind, these guys were pulled, halfway through the fourth quarter. So again, keep that in mind. Ant, 19 points, 5 turnovers. Cat, 14 points, minus 32 plus minus. Don't read too much into that. Everybody's plus minus was atrocious tonight. Rudy, 6 points, 2 rebounds. 2 rebounds for Rudy. Jaden, 10 points. Conley, 10 points, only 1 of 5 from 3. Nas, 7 points, 2 of 7 from the floor. And Nas, 6 points, 0 of 3 from 3-point land. Which one jumps out to you the most? Either one.
For me, it's Ant with 19 points, but also more glaring 0 free throw attempts. And that was the issue that I had with him tonight, where he was too passive. Everything, he was settling way too much for jumpers. The ball was kind of sticking with him, that quick decision making, that immediate attack and kick or attack and get to the rim. It wasn't there tonight with him. We saw the 2 or 3 layups that he had. Jokic literally just stepped out of the way. So that was there all night. He didn't take it. Way too many mid-range jumpers and pull-up threes.
How about on that same token, Karl Anthony Towns had 0 2-point makes in the game, and he only tried 2 of them. Not enough shots from Karl Anthony Towns. Combined, Cat and Ant need more than 22 shots.
Yeah.
They both shot efficiently. I mean, they were 12 of 22. They were over 50% from the field. But they were hunting, like you said, Tyler, hunting threes a little bit. They made the first 3 field goals of the game, all threes. And the Wolves kind of stuck to that mentality. They were doing a lot of driving and kicking, trying to set up threes. Their role players didn't hit anything. And anything they were shooting in the mid-range was rimming off tonight. They had no luck in the paint. They had no luck with the middies. They really were living and dying kind of at the arc. We've had some people in the comments pointing that out. And the offense just didn't flow. But Cat not making a 2-point shot, that has to change in game 4.
Yeah, I actually want to do a little bit more of a deep dive on Cat here coming up here in a second, and plenty more deep dive on this Wolves-Denver Game 3 debacle. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, guys, it's by far the easiest and most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and your favorite players. I absolutely love it because it's so simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season now in full swing, so whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, or first inning runs, take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. If you're a Twins fan, might I suggest adding Ryan Jeffers to your next entry? He's been making people a lot of money the past few weeks. Or get in on all the NBA playoff action with the T-Wolves and win up to 100 times your money on the Prize Picks app. Plus, one of my favorite parts, Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. So what are you waiting for? Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. This episode also brought to us by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, what brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers to roof racks, eBay Motors, they got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Check this out. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, guys, Sam teased it at the top, so I'm just going to bring it up. And I know it's been a huge talker the past 72 hours or so leading up to this game. So were you surprised at all by the punishment handed down on Jamal Murray after the whole Heat Pack incident? Because as we all saw, there was a plethora of outrage on social media, media outlets alike, by a lot of NBA experts as well. Like Glenn Perkins, for one, he said he should have most definitely been suspended for Game 3 at minimum. So, Tyler, surprised by the decision not to be suspended and being fined $100K?
Surprise, no. Disagree, yes.
Okay.
And not just for, it'd be nice from a Timberwolves standpoint if 24 points weren't, 24 points weren't on the court for Denver tonight. But I mean, I just don't know what the argument for him not being suspended is. It wasn't heat of the moment because he threw a towel and then was unsatisfied with his throw. So researched for something a little heftier to then throw on and have that get onto the court. So he threw two things on. His own teammate, Reggie Jackson, initially almost stepped on it when he kicked it, and then Cat almost stepped on it, and we saw how easily that slid across the floor. Someone steps on that, especially after going up for a shot or a rebound or something. They're tearing their groin, they're pulling a hammy, they're hyperextending a knee. There are a lot of really bad situations that could have gone. $100,000 fine. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Not really for Jamal Murray, though. And also, I believe he also did the money sign, which Rudy Gobert also got fined $100,000 for earlier in the year. So gets scot-free off on that one. Just, it feels very much like playing the result. And, man, we really don't want the reigning champions to go down 3-0 in the second round.
Yes, Sam, I'd love your 2 cents on that as well.
Rudy didn't get his money's worth. Rudy could have thrown some stuff.
You're right.
Rudy could have thrown some stuff and got and had the same thing, right? 100,000 is the max fine, so they can't go above that. I mean, this, had they been able to, feels like this would have been worthy of more, maybe twice what Rudy got fined. But guys, at an official during play, multiple items thrown.
Come on.
You got to have some spine, Adam Silver. I know that
it's like Ron Johnson out at the Lifetime courts. What are we doing out there? Come on.
Come on. I know that the Players Associate, like the Players Survey, they really like you. You want them to like you, Adam. You want them to think that you're their best friend. Well, you know what? You got it. Sometimes a good parent, the kids have to respect them because they discipline the kids once in a while. And Adam Silver didn't. You wanted the best players on the floor. I get it. Like, that's why this isn't surprising. But it doesn't set a very strong precedent for something that you just can't do in an NBA game.
Well said there. More concerning now moving forward. Wolves defense tonight giving up what? How many points did they give up tonight? I already lost it. A lot of points.
117.
117 points. Or the offense only scoring as many as they did at home, no less, inside the Target Center. More concerning moving forward, Tyler.
For me, it's the offense. Denver has one of the best offenses in the league. They have a skeleton key in Nikola Jokic, who's just 99% of the time he's going to get the best look available. And Jamal Murray, we know how good that two-man game is. So if the shot is falling for him, we know that they're going to put up points and really kind of collapse the defense and make things really difficult. But when Minnesota's shot isn't falling, when Cat and Ant are that passive tonight and just kind of disappear for really long stretches, there's not a whole lot left there to kind of go to. So I thought tonight's game was a bigger indictment on the offense, and then not really able to find a spark anywhere. Then I don't really have any concerns with the league's best defense from start to finish this year.
Sam, agree?
Yeah, the Wolves bench was particularly troublesome tonight. Nas had a bad game. They tried McLaughlin to start him.
I was like,
and he had two good corner three looks. As one of the best 3-point shooters in the league this year, you want those to fall, and they didn't. Role players were just terrible for the Wolves tonight. I mean, I think that the exact same thing is true that we said after game 2. The Wolves just probably aren't going to be that good, and the Nuggets probably aren't going to be that bad. And I think you flip it now for game 3. The Nuggets aren't going to shoot 60%, in the first 3 quarters. And the Wolves are probably not going to be that out of sorts. It is a chess match. These coaching staffs have a shorter turnaround now. They got to get back ready for Sunday, 7:00. But they'll make the adjustments necessary. They'll go in with, in a different headspace, I think. Now the Wolves will have a little bit of that desperation back. But also, I think the Wolves were probably playing a little out of their realm offensively. Like, they were the 17th ranked offense, right, Tyler, in the regular season or something around there.
Yeah, I think they finished like 14th maybe, but yeah.
And they've been one of the most efficient so far in the playoffs. So they'd probably been overachieving a little bit offensively, and tonight all the regression came pouring back at the Timberwolves. So getting that going again is probably the biggest concern, but I'm also not counting on Denver to be that dynamic a second consecutive game on the road.
Just speaking of McLaughlin here real quick, I see some people in the comments wondering about some of the lineup decisions, maybe not enough Monte Morris tonight. Tyler, any issues or any maybe head scratchers as far as, the rotations that they used tonight?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, if Jordan McLaughlin knocks down those 2 wide open corner threes like he has kind of all year, like he's not a big time dynamic shot maker, but he's been really reliable on those open catch and shoot shots. So if he makes those and, was it like a 15-point lead at that time, gets cut to single digits, it's like, oh, wow, what a heady move by putting Jordan McLaughlin in. We're singing a little different tune here. Monte, his defense has been solid since he came over, but he still hasn't been able to find the shot all season. So maybe he would be a little more interesting to just kind of throw on Jamal Murray for a couple minutes, just a smaller, quicker, pesky guard to kind of get up in his shirt, cause a little discomfort. But it's second round of the playoffs. There's really nothing drastic with the rotation that's going to happen.
Yeah. And let's remember too that Monte had the sprained finger in Monday's game, so he might not have been 100%. So putting McLaughlin in Morris's place, I think makes sense. And think about 2 years ago in the Memphis series, McLaughlin was the secret weapon. That was the guy finishing games in a playoff series because of how much stability he brought to the offense. So I think that move made perfect sense. When your offense is scuffling, no flow, they didn't give him really long enough of a look to have him make any sort of impact. But I think that was a string that you pull when you're falling and the parachute is not it's not deploying. You need to do something. You're pulling at all the strings. That's what they tried to do there. Didn't work. Did the Wolves lose every quarter in this game? Like, there was never one stretch where they even got anything.
They tied the fourth. They tied 24-24.
Yay.
So, moral victories there. Moral victories. Real quick one here before we move to segment 3, 30 seconds each. I just thought it was noteworthy to bring this up because they mentioned it on the broadcast. It's so easy to forget. This was Cat's 9th game back from that 5-week injury. Feels like forever ago. And again, he had that, fast start, 4 for 4, all from 3-point range, quick 12 points, kind of kept them afloat for a while. How good has he looked? What's his return meant for this team? And I guess, how impressed are you with this quick turnaround back from injury?
Yeah, I heard that too, Luke, early in the broadcast when they said 9th game back. And
I couldn't believe that.
Those 9 games have stretched over a month on the calendar, so it feels like longer, but it really is only 9 games. And when you see what he's done in this series, particularly game 2, you say to yourself, man, that guy does not look any worse for the wear. I think he's moving really well and shooting really well. So I think Cat will be a big reason why, if they bounce back and win this series. I think that that he'll be a big catalyst behind that. He's been super impressive. I didn't think he was really that great in the final 2 games of the regular season, but he, like the rest of the team, brought it up a notch in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add there, Tyler?
I just think he's been really good in the playoffs. Just solid, simplified his decision making, executing on offense, playing the best defense of his career, coming off of that knee surgery. It's really impressive stuff. So the shot attempts need to go up, but if he can kind of just keep it simple, launch off the catch, abuse mismatches in the post, keep it simple, get 12 to 15 shot attempts a game, rebound, try and limit the silly offensive fouls. I don't know what else more there is to kind of ask for him or ask from him.
Yeah. Well said there. Good breakdown. All right, couple minutes left here, guys. We got to preview Game 4 Sunday night. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by Monopoly Go. Now, I've been told I'm the competitive one in the household, okay? I'm the guy who's always trying to kick things up a notch, maybe create a little friendly competition, if you will. And that's exactly why Monopoly Go is perfect. And not just for me, but over 150 million other people that have already downloaded it. It's the new latest and greatest twist on the classic Monopoly we all love and remember. And now you can play on not just one board, but hundreds of Monopoly boards, all with different crazy locations, helping you build up amazing new cities that bring you big money. And best part, without a doubt, messing with your friends and family, charge them rent on all the iconic properties, and you can even steal their vaults of cash or team up with your family and friends and play together to earn big rewards. So, what are you waiting for? Get in the game, play with all your family, play with all your friends, and download Monopoly Go for free at the App Store and Google Play. All right, I've asked this after every game, every playoff game, and it's become one of my favorite segments or bits because they won 6 in a row prior to this. But I think I should still ask it, even though they lost tonight, because I'm kind of curious your guys' answers here. What's the one thing you'll always remember from Game 3 when the dust settles and we look back on this one? Because for me, especially if, oh my God forbid the Nuggets end up rallying all the way back to take this series, it's going to be Jamal Murray morphine into playoff Jamal Murray that we all remember from years past. And this was kind of the game that he kind of flipped that switch and turned it back on. What about you, Tyler?
Oh, boy. It might be Michael Porter and Aaron Gordon going 8 of 9 from 3, and you're just never going to win that game. So I think it might be just how effective and efficient the Denver's role players were.
Yeah, I think the unraveling was demonstrated late by the technical situation, which I was looking at Twitter. It seemed like a lot happened during a commercial break that we didn't really get to see happen live. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker getting dumped by a Jokic screen. He was screening guys to the ground all night. And honestly, I don't even think Jokic was really doing anything wrong. I think he's just massive. And when Nickeil runs into a guy that size, he's going to get floored and he's going to hurt his shoulder. But seeing Slow-Mo lose his cool, Nickeil lose his cool, I think Nas picked up a tee earlier as well. The Wolves lost their cool, just like the Nuggets did a game before. It is frustrating to lose, especially when, how many calendar days since the Wolves lost a basketball game, guys? Like, I'm like, seriously, 20, 25? Like, the end of the regular season was a long time ago. They haven't lost. They haven't had this feeling in a long time. So the frustration bubbling, those are the images that I'm going to be thinking about and haunted by the next 2 days.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, Game 4 on deck, Sunday night, 7 p.m. tip-off. What are you guys looking for as far as, this team changing the most and adjusting now after what we just watched? And then what are you looking for the most as far as them doubling down on outside of just, okay, they got to get back to playing suffocating defense again? Tyler, start with you.
I'm really intrigued to see how they kind of deploy Anthony Edwards early. Are we going to get the really confident and aggressive Ant in the first quarter that's dropping 15 and really setting the tone for the entire game? And then also defensively, are they going to stick with him on Jamal Murray or try and mix things up a little bit from the start and throw Jaden McDaniels for a little more length? I'm really intrigued to see kind of how they target and make Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic work, because they didn't do that at all tonight. On defense, they obviously made them, or allowed them to get to their spots whenever they wanted. But then even when Minnesota was on offense, they didn't target those guys as much as they could have, where Jamal Murray's looking to switch off everything and stay out of any ball action. So if you can get him in the pick and roll, if you can get him in isolation and make him defend, make him expend energy on that end of the floor, and then bring it up 94 feet against pressure, that's really going to wear him down. And Nikola Jokic has zero interest in defending anything at the rim. So you just have to keep attacking the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Trivia question. Which Timberwolf had the most made free throws in this game?
It's got to be something ridiculous. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be asking it. So I'm going to say, nah.
Luka Garza.
Yeah, I knew it was something wild off the wall. Okay.
4 of 4. So with that in mind, I think you got to set up some post-up situations. You got to get downhill. Naz Reid has got to become driving Naz.
Mm-hmm.
3-point shooting Naz is great. Naz has got to assert himself. Cat's got to assert himself. Ant's got to assert himself. Get to the rim early, often. Create a foul trouble situation. Why is it that the Wolves are always the team that finds itself with the guy picking up the third foul in the first quarter? Like flip the script for once and put the Nuggets behind the 8 ball by drawing some whistles. And if you do and if you find out quickly, okay, they're not calling anything in this game, well, that benefits you too, because that's going to benefit you on the other end of the floor where the Wolves can play more physically. So I think that's a win-win situation if you just test the waters early and try to be super aggressive getting to the basket.
Let's sneak one more in here before we got to get out of here. How important does Game 4 feel now after what just transpired? It's one thing to lose, but the fashion in which they just lost, because all we heard for the past 3 days, 72 hours, Minnesota's got the reigning champs on the ropes. But we all know now, if you can't win Sunday and take at least one at home, this entire series feels like it just got flipped on its head, so to speak.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler.
I think it's probably as close to a must-win as there is when it's not a closeout game. Yeah. Going back to Denver for Game 5 up 3-1 would be so much different than it being tied 2-2. Even if those, if you think about it, of the Wolves losing 2 in Denver and then winning 2 at home, I know it's technically the same, but it's not. Dropping 2 at home after those dominant performances in Denver would be a real killer against the reigning champs. So it's a huge opportunity to really put a stranglehold on this series, and they really can't let it slip away.
Yeah. It's the Wolves are still favored in the series on FanDuel -215. They're 2.5-point favorites in Game 4 versus 4.5. So the Nuggets getting a little more credit going into the fourth game, but it's gigantic. It's everything. You want to ensure that Game 6 is on the table for you. Like, even if you go to Denver and lose Game 5, you want to make sure that Game 6 is a chance for you to win the series when this series comes back to Minneapolis. So you win Game 4, then I think you play Game 5 with the pressure off. If you lose Game 4, then it's a pressure cooker going back to the altitude and trying to play that game after 2 straight losses. It completely changes the complexion.
T-Wolves fall back to earth tonight. They get steamrolled at home, 117-90. Day off tomorrow to ice up and get ready for Game 4 Sunday. And again, tip-off for that one, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, huge shout-out to everybody that joined us on the stream. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place right here to break it all down. And quick reminder, go check out all of Tyler's work on X at TMetcalf11, and make sure you check out Sam and the entire crew on the Minnesota Basketball Party each and every Wednesday. Already can't wait for that next week's episode, I should say, with our guy Jack Borman on that one. Not to mention Ben Beacon, always killing it, always ripping it up over on the Locked On Wolves podcast each and every day as well. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. He's Sam, he's Tyler, I'm Luke. We'll see you for Game 4, but until then, signing out.